Sometimes I measure my worth only in dollars, not in the faces waiting at the table. The clink of cutlery carries down the hallway before I even step into the dining room. Knives and forks against porcelain. Plates shift slightly as hands move food around instead of eating it. My family's voices are softer than usual, hushed almost, like they're waiting for something, waiting for me. But I'm not there, not fully. I'm standing in the corner, phone in hand, scrolling numbers that don't change no matter how many times I refresh. My thumb moves without thinking, flicking down again and again, hoping for a miracle hidden in a line of digits. The screen glows cold in my palm, while across the table warm food sits untouched, cooling with each passing minute. I glance up. My chair is empty. It's only a chair, wooden, worn at the edges from years of use. But tonight, it feels heavier than any ledger I've carried. That empty seat tells the truth. My phone never will. I'm here in the house, but absent at the table. And the guilt tightens in my chest. I tell myself the same story I've told 1,000 times. I'm doing this for them. This work, this worry, this endless checking. It's a sacrifice for their good. But when I catch the glance of my partner, patient but tired, or when I see my child poking at dinner, waiting for me to sit down, I feel another truth pressing in. Maybe I'm not working for them. Maybe I'm working away from them. The weight of provision has always sat heavy on my shoulders. In my culture, in my family, in myself, a man proves his worth by what he provides. Money, stability, protection. If I don't bring those things, the story says, I'm failing. So I chase numbers late into the night. I answer calls during dinner. I refresh screens instead of holding conversations. I put money first, thinking it will prove my love. But all it proves tonight is absence. The clink of cutlery rings louder, each sound a reminder. They're waiting, and I'm missing. I look down at the phone one more time. The numbers don't change, but the faces at the table do, shifting from hopeful to resigned. And guilt seeps deeper, like a shadow spreading across the room. Sometimes I wonder if I'm working for them or away from them. That question haunts me. Because the root of this struggle isn't just financial stress. It isn't just business risk. It's cultural, generational, carved into me long before I picked up my first client call. I grew up with the story that provision is the mark of a man, that to fail financially is to fail entirely, that love is proven by sacrifice, hours worked, money earned, comforts given up. So when I sit at the table with my family and the bills stack higher in the background, I feel a gnawing guilt that I should be doing more, providing more, earning more, that the time I spend in this chair is time stolen from their future. And yet, another truth stirs. What if presence is provision too? The guilt is layered. On the surface, there's financial stress, the reality of running a business, of carrying payroll, of calculating risk. Beneath that, there's the immigrant guilt, the voice that says, your parents sacrificed everything to give you this chance. If you don't multiply it, you've wasted their pain. And deeper still, there's the silent fear. If I'm not constantly earning, I'm not enough. I ask myself the mirror questions. Do you feel like money is the only way you prove your love? More often than I want to admit. Do you carry guilt even when you're providing enough? Yes, because enough feels like a moving target. Every time I reach it, the bar shifts further away. The universal theme reveals itself clearly: provider pressure. The crushing belief that my worth is tied solely to what I bring in, not how I show up. And yet, wisdom whispers back, your presence is as valuable as your provision. But believing that feels dangerous. It feels like betraying everything I was raised to honor. It feels like loosening my grip on duty. The symbolic cue stays in my mind: the empty chair at dinner. That absence says more about failure than any number on a balance sheet ever could. And in my chest, the question pounds louder: am I working for them or away from them? Tonight, I don't have an answer yet. The breaking point came on a weekday evening I'll never forget. It was my child's school event. Nothing grand, just a class performance. A moment that mattered more to them than any deal could matter to me. I had promised I'd be there. I had said the words with confidence. I wouldn't miss it for the world. But the world barged in anyway. The client call ran late, a big one, high stakes. My phone buzzed again and again as I stood in my office, torn between duty and desire. I told myself, just a few minutes, just one more answer, just one more reassurance. But minutes became an hour, and by the time I hung up, the performance had ended. The stage was empty. The kids were home. My child's drawing sat folded neatly on my desk, a bright picture of our family with me in the center. A picture I hadn't earned that night. I sat down in my chair, the office suddenly silent, the glow of the laptop harsh against the truth I couldn't avoid. The overwhelming symbol was there in front of me. That drawing, innocent and unblinking, saying what words never could. We wanted you there. You weren't. The thought loop struck hard, cruel, and repetitive. I'll never be enough for them. No matter how hard I work, I'll always fall short. If I can't provide both money and presence, I'm failing as a father, as a man. I slumped forward in the chair, elbows on the desk, head bowed low. The collapsed gesture wasn't just physical, it was emotional. My spirit folded in on itself, shrinking under the weight of expectations I could never seem to meet. The food at the table grew cold that night, untouched again. My chair stayed empty. My child's drawing stayed folded on the desk. And in that emptiness, I believed the worst, that I was both absent and inadequate, a failure wrapped in the disguise of a provider. But then, something shifted. Later that night, when I finally made it home, I braced myself for disappointment, for distance, for the look in my child's eyes that would confirm my fear. Instead, they ran to me. No hesitation, no tally of missed promises, just arms wide open, crashing into me with a hug that nearly knocked the air out of my lungs. And in that embrace, the anchor landed. Provision isn't just money, it's presence. I froze, holding that small body against mine, feeling the heartbeat that didn't care about invoices or client calls or balance sheets. What they wanted wasn't numbers. What they needed was me. The reframed insight flooded through me. My family values me, not just my paycheck. I thought back to all the moments I had measured my worth by digits. The endless scrolling, the late night checking, the pressure that whispered more, more, more. And I realized that none of it mattered in this moment. What mattered was that hug, that presence, that proof that love was not earned by dollars, but given freely in presence. The symbolic moment crystallized in my memory, the empty dinner table in my mind shifting into the photo frame on the shelf, the one with us together, smiling, whole, not because of money, but because of time shared. Each layer steadied me, rewrote the story I'd carried for years. Provision wasn't just financial. It was emotional, relational, spiritual. And as I repeated the words, I felt my chest loosen. The guilt didn't vanish, but it shifted. It softened into something else. Awareness, choice, direction. I'm enough because I show up, not just because I earn. That sentence settled deep. It felt foreign, almost rebellious against everything I'd been taught, but it also felt true, truer than the lie that numbers alone could define my worth. That night, I took my seat at the dinner table, late but present. The chair no longer stood as a symbol of absence, but of return. And for the first time in a long time, I felt provision not as a burden, but as a gift I gave simply by being there. I'm enough because I show up, not just because I earn. It's one thing to realize this truth in a moment of clarity. It's another to live it in the ordinary rhythm of life. The critic in my chest doesn't disappear just because I've named the lie. Bills don't vanish. Expectations don't soften. The urge to pick up the phone and check the numbers still claws at me. That's why I needed a ritual. Something to interrupt the cycle, to root me back in presence when pressure pulls me away. The practice I chose is deceptively simple. One phone-free family meal each week. It may sound small, almost trivial compared to the weight of cultural pressure, but the smallness is its strength. This isn't about rearranging my whole world in one grand act. It's about choosing a moment, one consistent, ordinary moment, and filling it with my presence. The ritual starts before the meal even begins. I place my phone in the other room. Sometimes I hear it buzz from a distance, like a ghost trying to call me back. But I leave it there. That choice is part of the ritual. Proof to myself that presence is stronger than distraction. Then I walk to the table. I pull out my chair, the same chair that once stood as a symbol of absence. I let the sound of it scraping against the floor remind me, I am here now. I sit, and before I even lift my fork, I place both hands flat on the table. I feel the wood beneath my palms, sturdy, warm, grounding. That simple contact becomes my anchor, a reminder that provision doesn't only come from what I earn out there, but from how I show up in here. As food is served, I resist the familiar urge to let my mind drift back to numbers, to schedules, to looming deadlines. Instead, I tune into the present moment with deliberate attention. The smell of warm rice, the sizzle of a dish fresh from the pan, the clink of cutlery mingling with laughter. Each sound and scent becomes its own form of currency, richer than any balance sheet. The affirmation I repeat quietly is this: my presence provides. Sometimes I whisper it under my breath, hidden in the rhythm of conversation. Sometimes I only hear it in my mind, but every time it recalibrates me. The grounding symbol is my chair. For years, that empty seat carried guilt, the image of my absence staring back at me. Now, by returning to it intentionally, I transform its meaning. Each time I sit in it, I rewrite the story. From absence to presence, from failure to provision. And the reassurance becomes clear. Showing up is priceless. The ritual grows in power, not because it changes the world outside, but because it changes me inside. Over time, it quiets the critic who insists money is the only proof of love. It softens the cultural weight that equates worth with sacrifice. Even my family begins to feel the difference. I see it in their faces when I'm not just physically at the table, but fully there, laughing, listening, contributing. Their eyes tell me more than any paycheck ever could. This is what they wanted all along. It doesn't mean financial provision isn't important. It is. But this practice teaches me that money is not the only language of love. Attention is too. Presence is too. And sometimes, presence speaks louder. Even in this small, ordinary act, I feel the weight shifting. The guilt that once drove me softens into gratitude. The pressure that once bent me folds into choice. And I remember, provision isn't just something I give. It's something I live. I provide most when I show up fully, not just financially. That's the truth I hold tonight. At work, it means I no longer let every deal define my worth as a father or partner. Business success is important, but it's not the full measure of me. At home, it means my family doesn't just see my back disappearing into the office. They see my face across the table. They hear my voice in the room. They feel my presence where it matters. In myself, it means the story I inherited, that provision equals love, that sacrifice equals worth, is no longer the only story I live. I honor it, I acknowledge it, but I expand it. I add presence, laughter, time, attention to the ledger. Presence is provision. The closing symbol is vivid. The dinner table filled not just with food, but with laughter. Plates emptying, voices overlapping, warmth replacing silence. Proof that provision has many forms, and presence may be the richest of them all. But tonight, I rest in this truth. I provide most when I show up fully, not just financially. I provide most when I show up fully, not just financially.